You're listening to Eyes on Wax on CFUV 101.9 FM. I'm your host, Joseph, and we've got local musician, singer-songwriter Aaron Wylder on today's show. How's it going, Aaron?
Yeah, good man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So you just released a new single on Circus Records called Desert Ride on the heels of your March release, Fakin' Takin' Cowboys, which was a 2-track release. First, tell everybody about Fakin' Takin' Cowboys, and then we'll talk about the new single.
Yeah, I guess uh, been making music a while, but it's only I suppose in the last few months I kind of started to find the direction I really want to go with, and I don't think it's that good to be limited to a genre per se as a musician, but I've definitely found a direction I like going in. So I guess Fakin' Takin' Cowboys was sort of that first step into that weird kind of desert country folky stuff that I've been enjoying writing. And yeah, so that's kind of like the first take on it. It's just a 2-track. I'm kind of giving me the momentum to get going.
That was actually going to be my third question. Your musical style is a bit of a it's like a bit of a mix of outlaw country, dark kind of rhythm and blues and rock and roll. What kind of music do you listen to, and what artists or bands have influenced your style?
Yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff, and I've played in all kinds of bands and played all kinds of music. And I guess a friend of mine once said that it was like a good song is a good song, and a good song is just something, a song that's put together well. And so I guess when it comes down to, for me, like I go through waves and stuff, and I try to find new influences. Recently, I was listening to Townsend Zant, who's a '70s folk artist who I'd never heard before, and I just guess try to push myself. I've always been a huge Johnny Cash fan, huge Rolling Stones, Beatles fan, and I've been listening to some Queens of the Stone Age lately. Yeah, so it's for me, it's trying to create some type of vibe, an energy when you're playing, which it seems to be the most difficult thing, but it's cool when it goes off.
So Desert Ride is the new single. Talk a little bit about that song, how it came about, and the backstory behind that song.
Sure, yeah. It's just playing around on the acoustic, and kind of wrote a little ballad. It's sort of about up to interpretation, I suppose, of the listener, but it's I guess it's just about a guy trying to find his way in a difficult world. And kind of sometimes you got to take risks in life, and some people jump at an opportunity too quick, and sometimes you got to wait until you've hooked it just right. And sometimes all your cards get played right, and it works out. And I just started with an acoustic and ran it through a mic, and I have a pretty simple, dumbed down setup, so it does come out pretty genuine, which I liked, and I think that's probably what I liked most about the track, was that it came out pretty genuine and pretty real, which you always try to achieve when you're writing music.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely got a nice sound to it. Very warm, very just like thick sound. Everybody who's listening, go check out Desert Ride on Spotify and Bandcamp, and it's on all the other streaming apps too, right?
Yeah, it's on everything. Yeah.
Yeah, Desert Ride by Aaron Wylder. Go check it out, as well as Fakin' Takin' Cowboys. So let's talk about something else. You recently signed to local indie label Circus Records. Talk a little bit about that. And I know you just released Desert Ride, but what have you got planned for the next year, release-wise?
Yeah, firstly, it's been awesome to get involved with Circus Records, and I think it's a fantastic thing. It's an awesome little community. I've already made so many connections to it, and I'm loving it. In terms of music, I guess with the current pandemic, right, the best thing to do right now is write, and it's definitely given me that opportunity to write and find, go deep down and try to find the songs, which has been awesome. And I suppose as the year progresses, I think I'd like to get an album out in this year. That's probably the biggest goal, and try to progress and get my music out there and try to make a run at being a singer-songwriter, which which I suppose is everybody's dream in the end. But yeah, other than that, like, I don't know, surviving.
So let's talk about the pandemic a little bit. I know everybody's obviously sick of the whole thing, but has it been good for you creatively? A lot of artists I've talked to are on one side of the fence or the other. Like 50% are getting writer's block or are just feeling really unmotivated. Other people are putting out more content now than ever before. Where do you see yourself in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say my musical identity and who I am as a musician has grown massively over this time period. If I looked at myself a year ago, I didn't really have, like, I was playing some band stuff. I didn't really, I had my own songs and stuff, but didn't have any, real direction. Wasn't really going anywhere with my music. Because I guess, in the end, it's all perspective. If you feel like you're going somewhere, it actually kind of push it naturally. Yeah, for me, I think it's been a blessing in disguise. It's a bit of a silver lining for me. I've just had all this time to write and to spend time thinking about what I want to sound like, what I want to write about, time to think about how I want to present myself. And I think it's good to have that time. I could totally understand, like, definitely had the fair share of writer's block, but it's never been a huge issue for me. In fact, I think I just write too much sometimes, and trying to weave out the shitty songs and find the good ones in there is definitely the challenge. Because you always feel like every song you write is a hit, and then you listen to it a week later and like, what was that? But yeah, trying to stick to the writing and stuff. I certainly miss playing live, and I think that's been a huge loss. And a lot of the local places we all love playing live some have gone under, and that's a real shame. And we really hope that I guess collectively that we can get back into live music as soon as possible. So that would probably be the biggest downside, is the live side.
What's your take on Instagram shows or virtual shows? Are you a fan, or is that something that you'd be up to doing? Do you have any plans for any online shows in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're cool if you do it in a cool setting, like, but people have been playing in front of cameras for, that's how some people have made their way, and so it's certainly a way to do it, but it's not the same for me, and it's kind of like I think it's a really hard thing to engage people with, to get people to join on a live stream or whatever it is on a Friday, and I think you probably you're better off going and trying to do some type of social distance gig where you play and people are all spread it around, and because yeah, I guess, I mean, I think it's better than nothing for sure, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of it. I don't think it's like, it's not live music to me.
Completely different energy for the performer,
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and like, I totally get it. Like, it's better than nothing for sure. And if you present it in a really creative, innovative way, I think it's awesome. And you definitely have to put the work in on the, like, in terms of like the sound quality side. Like, you need to make sure you have some good mics and a good camera, and like those things really matter. I played on like a Zoom show last summer, and like it was fun. It was fun, but I doubt watching it was, it's probably fun for your friends to see, but it wasn't quality.
Right.
It was like a bunch of bands playing on this thing. It was on Zoom, right? So it's some people didn't even have like mics. You're hooking up. They're literally just playing into their laptop. So it's difficult. While if you did that at a cafe, it's completely different. You do that outside. So I still think that we can there's ways around it. It's just finding those little loops. Maybe someone needs to get on a barge and go in the middle of the harbor and start playing music.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, I think they used to do that. There was like an orchestra. They used to there's like a barge orchestra or something in Vic. But that'd probably be a good way to do it now.
Hey, Barge Festival 2021.
Yeah, man, Barge Fest.
Barge Fest. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. I wonder if we could sneak that by the local authorities.
Yeah, I mean, I see the odd busker around, which is awesome. It's crazy. I remember, like, I was when we went through that. It was like we went through like a dark period for 3 months where nothing was going on, and then we started slowly reappearing. And I remember when I saw the first busker, and just hearing like a guitar coming out of an amp, I thought this guy was like Jimi Hendrix. Like I thought he was like he was pretty talented. He was good, but I looked at him like he was Tom Petty or something because I hadn't heard live music or at least heard like a guitar, really coming out of an amp with a good, like a decent setup and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so, you get so accustomed to just listening to things through your headphones. Like I haven't plugged my guitar into an amp in so long, living in an apartment. It's weird. It's a weird time.
Yeah, fingers crossed everything goes back to normal, or semi-normal at least, very soon, so that we can all get back to doing what we love to do, performing and mingling and hanging out and just having fun with friends, and just playing
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
playing music and listening to music, just enjoying the whole experience.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it is that live thing, and I think there's a lot to be said about building your online presence because I think that is the thing now is building your Spotify or your different streaming things and all that whole market that's your living in for a lot of musicians. But at the same time, there's that other half is that live side, and I think there's that transition happening. As you see it with this Circus Records, is this want for people to actually listen on. People want to hear tape again. People want to hear vinyl again, and they want to feel music again in a tangible way. I think I saw an article in Britain. They had like the record vinyl sales ever for the record labels, even in comparison to the 70s, 80s, 90s. Because there's that many people listening to music and people actually buying vinyl. So
Mm-hmm.
bands are selling vinyl, and I think there's a slow transition back to how it used to be, where you put on a record and you didn't talk over it. You go to the effort of putting it on a turntable because you're ready to listen to it. So it's really interesting.
Honestly, I totally agree with you. I wouldn't say the listening experience is all that different, but it's just the whole idea of it's kind of like having a bookshelf full of movies and browsing the titles and picking one out, putting it in the DVD player or VHS player, whatever you have, and kicking back and just like pressing play, and that's it. As opposed to just scrolling through screen after screen after screen of videos on Netflix. It's the exact same thing on Spotify. It's almost like what do they call it? Like choice overload or choice fatigue or something like that. But it's like
Yeah,
people are just really I think like longing to get back to a more simple even just like simple listening experience, you know what I mean?
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and it's like I that's part of the reason why I think I listen to so much music from the 70s and 60s is because it seems simpler to me because they're just surely there was tons of musicians back then, but there just wasn't that many as there is today. There wasn't like I can't like I try to listen to as much new music as I can that's relevant to me and relevant to what I like, and I think there's a lot of great artists out there. Kurt Vile, the first guy that comes to my mind. Like he would I think that guy holds his worth no matter what time it is. Um, but part of the reason I listen to it is because it's not the music was more complex, but the idea was simpler. There wasn't all these different avenues. It was record, get to a studio, record, get it out onto a radio,
And then
um,
and then tour.
and tour. Yeah, and that's something like I'm longing for. Is I want to ideally I'd spend all year on tour. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'm honestly wondering how this is gonna look when things readjust and everybody's grown accustomed to sort of, I don't know, managing their music career online more or less, and like we talked about the social media and the online presence being really important for musicians, that when it goes back to networking in person, is the online presence gonna retain its importance going forward, or do you think musicians are gonna just be like, okay, I'm so sick of online stuff now, finally I can just deal with people in real life and like forget Instagram, forget it all, I just want to like play as many shows as possible and just, you know, be in.
Yeah, I think for sure. Like, I think for sure people will be trying to book as many shows as possible, and I don't think the importance. I think those platforms are still going to stay real relevant. But I think it's just a matter of like how your approach is, what kind of music you play, and for me, like I've always seen the first thing that comes. You know, I mean, a lot of musicians will agree with this. The first thing is the songwriting and the songs. And if you're writing something that you think is meaningful to yourself, then you know, if you don't think it's good, you're not going to be able to sell it. And so I think once you can get back in playing shows, I think that's probably, like, in a lot of ways, I think that's how you create real fans. It's pretty difficult to go online and, you know, virtually create these genuine relationships. Like you see one band, one show, and that can change your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big perception of music, and you know, we've all been there where we've seen a show, and you see this guy, and you're like, that is what I want to do. I need to get boots like that because I want to be a rock star, or I need to get a Gibson SG, or I need to,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I totally get it. Yeah.
You see that stuff, you're like, that's exactly what I fucking want to do, and and so like it's how you, and that's, yeah, and the way I see it is like when you're playing shows, every show is an opportunity to connect, right?
Yeah,
and the more you can connect with people, and the more you can connect with the right people, is how you kind of just you build that audience. So like it's everyone's kind of, you know, it's kind of one of those, it's kind of like you know, if you try to play country to a hip hop crowd, everyone's gonna be like, what is this? And then if you play, you know, hip hop to a country crowd, they're all gonna be like, well, I don't know about this either. It's sometimes with the online is like it's so specific, and it is very tailored. You can hit your audiences, but at the same time, there's millions and millions and millions of people trying to do the same thing. People trying to find new music, and it gets all scrambled, and you start getting messages from someone saying like, hey, I'll pay you, I'll give you, or you pay me $25 and I'll share your stuff all over here and get you 10,000 of these fake, whatever they're called, followers. And it just gets all meshed up and complicated when you go to a show. It's pretty evident if people like you or not.
100%. And that's the really deceiving thing about the online thing as well, is like, I don't know, it's hard to say this without like, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody out there, but it's just like, if you've got 10,000 followers, how many of those followers are what you'd consider quality followers? You know what I mean? Like, how many of those people are going to tune in if you know, perform online? Or how many of those people are going to buy your album if it comes out? Is 10,000 followers really that important? Or is it better to have 100 quality followers that are like true fans of what you do, truly support what you do? I think the whole thing's just really muddled online, and unfortunately, a lot of musicians are kind of falling like prey to this idea that like, I gotta get followers. It's kind of like the whole social media fame pandemic on its own kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I see it as like quality over quantity when it comes to for musicians anyways. Like, it's better to have 10 quality followers than 100 people who don't care, and you just have the number on your profile. Like, what good is that? You know what I mean?
Totally agree. That's a really good point. Yeah, like I found myself being like, oh, I got to try to get more because it kind of legitimizes what you do. But I totally agree. Like, and that's it. Like, I think I remember where I heard it, but like, take Metallica coming up in the '80s, and they're not on any radio play. Nobody's playing with Metallica on the radio. But somehow they managed to sell millions and millions and millions of records. And they built themselves up to probably one of the most monetarily successful music groups of all time, certainly rock bands. And they never will play on the radio now, but never in the 80s or anything. There was no room for Metallica. Like nobody, like that was nobody's going to play it on the radio. No radio station was going to take that risk. And the way they could do that was because they found their quality. They had their quality people who were genuinely invested, and they were able to connect with them. And I guess that's where I find it the most difficult. It's like I know there's people out there to connect with, but you've actually created, now that everybody's connected, it's like the spider web is just infinitely long, and you have to go through all these little webs to try to get to that person that may like Desert Ride, or that person who may want to collaborate or talk about, having, go play a gig at their bar or something. It's about finding those little collectives, and Circus Records is definitely a right step in that direction, because I feel like I'm hanging out and chatting with like-minded people.
Yeah, and about the Metallica thing, it's like, think about the message behind that concept is that the mainstream basically rejected them, or wouldn't take a chance on them, but their true group of supporters, however big or small that was so adamant and so supportive and passionate about what these artists were doing that they probably just word of mouth spread the music around, maybe made mixtapes, gave it to their friends, and next thing you know, Metallica, like you said, is one of the most lucrative bands of all time. As far as the online thing goes, and the whole gaining followers thing, I think as far as that online presence thing that we were talking about, it's just like, who do you reach out to, who do you talk to? It's just like, I think you quickly realize just through your online interactions, like, who is truly behind you, and those are the people that you should really just like hang on to and just like communicate with, chat with, let them know what's going on, create what do you call it, like mailing lists, or not mailing lists, but like just like a weekly update, like if on your Bandcamp or your website or something, you could just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing, I just released my newsletter or whatever, just so your true fans can constantly keep up to date with what's going on with you. And that's the thing, it's just like, don't take for granted, even if there's, and I'm not saying you've got a slew of people behind you now, but like anybody who's out there just starting up in music and feeling like kind of overwhelmed by the whole online thing, it's just like, even if you've got 5 people who are big fans, those 5 people can, if they're passionate about what you're doing, that's a powerful force, you know what I mean?
Totally. So, I totally agree.
So take that like momentum and run with it. Don't worry about like who's not listening to you. Worry about the people who are listening to you, and
that's such good advice. Yeah.
And just really be thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to look at, like, because it's all about the numbers. It never used to be that way. People didn't look at those numbers. You didn't have the ability to, in real time, see how many people are listening to your music, and it's you would be more concerned on, do we have enough people coming to our show? And I'm looking forward to getting back to those kind of things, because I feel like once you're playing shows, you don't really give a shit anymore about like what's good. Like, you'll post stuff and try to keep in touch with people that care. And but once you're playing shows and you've got show after show coming up, all you want to do is have fun out there and push those out to people and connect with people and travel and meet other musicians and kind of like have the whole experience back again. And but I totally agree. Like, 5 fans can get you a spot at a show. Like, exactly. 5 fans can like get you like that's business for a lot of these pubs and local venues. Like, you come in there and say, oh yeah, well I brought 8 people in and they're all going to buy 5 drinks each, and okay, I think we should have you every Monday or every Tuesday, and then you slowly build on that. And so like that's totally something not to be underestimated.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just musicians are used to connecting with their fans, or just they're used to connecting with audiences from a stage and spreading the vibes that way. Now it's just like, how do we connect with new audiences via this social media thing? It's just really confusing for a lot of people, and myself included. I obviously live performance is superior to online festival. It's just it can't be denied. But I think musicians are the most adaptable people out there, and the music industry is constantly changing. And Metallica, another band that's kind of had the same story as Motorhead.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to anybody about Motorhead coming up, and they were just like the same thing. Radio rejected them. They never got the big venues. They, Metallica is like obsessed with Lemmy and Motorhead. Any rock band, any punk band out there will just be like, yeah, Motorhead's like the greatest band of all time, but they just never saw mainstream success. But they're just so respected because their small group of supporters are just so passionate. But yeah, hopefully we all figure out new ways to connect with listeners and with each other online for the time being, and keep it positive, keep it moving forward, and just keep making good music.
Totally agree, yeah, man. Yeah, like it's there could be a way in these online sort of festivals and stuff that you find that way that you can actually tap into connecting with people, and maybe that's an app on the horizon. Maybe someone's going to perform in a way, and everyone's going to be like, "Holy shit, that's how we have to do it." But you're totally right. Musicians, one of the most adaptable kind of professionals out there.
Well, I'm really excited to hear more tunes from you, Aaron. Honestly, I'm a big fan of your sound, your vibe. It's awesome. Thanks for coming on the show. But before you leave, I just want you to tell listeners where they can find your music and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been awesome. You can find me on Instagram. Just search Aaron Wylder Music. Find me on Spotify. Search Aaron Wylder. Bandcamp, same name, and type that name in there. You should be able to find me on it, all the streaming services. Feel free to shoot me a message. Let me know what you think, and I always appreciate getting people's feedback and chatting with listeners and hearing what's going on in their lives and stuff. So feel free to shoot me a DM on Insta.
Sounds good. You heard it here. Okay, I'm going to play the brand new single from Aaron Wylder, Desert Ride. Aaron, thanks again for calling in. Hopefully we'll do this again soon. And here is Desert Ride by Victoria's own Aaron Wylder. You're listening to CFUV 101.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Gather round, folk. The fire's warm and the night is cold. I'll tell you the story of the desert. Started out just a little boy looking for a home. California when the stars rolled. Fell in love with a pretty girl with a pot of gold. Never knew what life did have in store. Till the desert stole what I couldn't hold. Remember the face he made. He told me that I've lost it all. Said you're better off in the nearest bar. Dust will blow and couldn't find a time. Nearly lost my mind. Till I saw an angel in the desert. Traveled forth I did. 2 miles across the county line. To California I say goodbye. It's time to ride, it's time to ride. Last I heard was that man, he got a bullet to the head. Poor fella fell in love with gold instead. Kept my wits with me. 6-piece my horse in the desert.